And welcome to another open source live code hangout. We'll be working on the Western Friend website today. Pull requests I've got in progress. I'm fixing a content importer, or improving it, and it wasn't behaving as expected previously. It wasn't able to succeed in creating the magazine article, because it was parsing data incorrectly. So I fixed the behavior to parse the data correctly. Now I need to actually update the test, which was testing for the wrong behavior. I was scratching my head a little bit on how to fix the test. I opened a question on Stack Overflow describing the basic premise. Turns out it's a kind of a bug in Wagtail that these rich text blocks that are parsing the HTML and helping to represent a renderable output, they don't have the equality method implemented, so you can't just do assertions against or equality checks against two rich text blocks, even if they would have the same content. Gasman, who is prolific in the Wagtail community, one of the, if not the core Wagtail developer, and always helping out on Stack Overflow very quickly, as is customary for Gasman, responded. I mean, I can't understate how much help Gasman is in general, and to the Wagtail community. It's just amazing. So yeah, we're just going to need to run these tests and follow their suggested workaround. I've just started my development environment, so I need to set up the background services. Which is basically just starting a Postgres database so that the test can run against, so this project can run against a database. We're not able to use SQLite. So once Colima once Colima starts, then Docker Compose will start. Colima is an alternative to Docker UI. It's a little, I think, less resource intensive. I just invoke it from the command line, whereas the Docker UI client has got, user interface, and it takes a lot of memory, and trying to be a little bit slim here on my resource consumption. My computer's not the newest, and I'm multitasking here. Then I can pretty much find the test here. It failed in the CI pipeline, so that's good. That was my early warning. I had forgotten to run it locally. And it looks like 3 tests failed. So yeah, I think they're roughly the same thing. They might have sort of different outcomes because of this case where I can't compare against Wagtail rich text blocks, because the representation is like, showing the memory. See, these have different memory signatures because they're locations, because they're different objects. So that equality method will be essential to my code to work as it is, which does pose a little bit of a difficulty, because these tests are not just looking at the output of one particular set or block, generated block, but a list of multiple types of blocks, including rich text blocks, but also pull quotes or plain strings. So it could be pointing to issues with my implementation, where I'm not using consistent interfaces or output from my block factory. So that would make it a little bit more challenging than just fixing the tests. In my block factory, so we're looking at conversion. Let me open my block factory here. Here it is. Hop over to that. I've got a static method that just gets a generic block, which is just a tuple. It's or a struct. It's a basic representation of the block data. It's just a wrapper around the data that's going to go into the block as it comes out of the spreadsheet. So it's an intermediary representation. I was asking ChatGPT if there's a better word for that, but no, that's kind of the more accurate way of describing it. It's in between the raw data and the class instance that Wagtail works with on its way to the database. The reason I needed that step in between is so that I can make sure parsing is correct and the sequencing is correct when I'm creating the page scaffold. So I just called those generic blocks because they're not quite blocks yet. But then we've got a map that takes the generic block and looks at its type, and we only have a few types here. So and it constructs a tuple, which Wagtail uses internally. And the tuple has a key. It's essentially a named tuple, but nonetheless, plain tuple. With the string represents the type of block it is. And it's the same string here. And then the second element should be more or less the Wagtail, like a representation of how Wagtail would generate the block. So a rich text instance in this case, but this one outputs a dictionary that it's essentially a struct that represents the fields of an image block. So it's kind of not apples and apples is the problem I'm thinking I'm going to face when testing this. In a poll quote, this is just a plain string. So these the APIs on these, the methods on strings, are going to differ than the methods on a block. So, yeah, it's just not trivial, but I could probably do some kind of if-else in my test case, like loop over the generated blocks for each. Do a particular type of comparison since they're not so numerous. It's a pull quote, just do string comparison. If it's an image, I can do struct comparison. If it's rich text, I can do source comparison. All right, I think it'll work. I just need to get this running and tested and move to the next thing, because these are content importers. So this is ephemeral code. It's just here to take us across the boundary of the old project to the new project, move the data into the new project. It's important code. It's mission critical because the content is like the reason you have a content management system. And we don't want to lose content. So I have to test it, but I don't want to make a super investment in like making it perfect or anything like that. Just reliable. Okay, so we got our database running. I was giving a little bit of a background while this was starting up, and there it is. So if I run these tests locally, I like hitting that and that. The terminal has some trouble starting up. We'll just run all the tests and find the same failures. And I suspect they're in the same file, and it could be that these are, I'm not sure if they're all simple test cases, so the database needs to run. Yeah, and I don't know in unit tests if you have multiple assertions inside of a loop, if it'll be easy to debug those tests. So that's probably an anti-pattern, in fact. Yeah. Well, the alternative is to use array indexing and literally just, I know the expected structure of the array output, so I know the 0th item should be a rich text. The first item should be an image, the second item should be a pull quote, or whatever the outcome is, and then for each of those I can just do expected items 0 source equals actual items 0 source. That's probably good. So I'll have just this, like, several assertions. Yeah. right, here's the tests. They're running. Tests are running. Every day I'm on VS Code Insiders edition, and every day I've got some new updates to this nightly. That's why it's nightly. So every night I'm getting new Copilot updates. It's cool though, and I think you need the Copilot nightly in order to try out the Copilot chat. Hello world. Yeah, how can I do? No, let's see. Well, heck, all right, I'll try it out. How can I create a new branch in Git while using Visual Studio Code? To create a new branch in Git using Visual Studio Code, you can follow these steps. Open the Git panel by clicking the Git icon in the left sidebar. Click on the ellipsis button to open the Git Actions menu. Click on the Create Branch to open the Create Branch dialog. Enter a name for the new branch in the text box. Select the starting point for the new branch from the drop-down list. This can be the current branch or another branch. Click the Create button to create the new branch. This will create a new branch in Git with the specified name and starting point. You can switch to the new branch by clicking the branch name in the bottom left corner of the VS Code window and selecting new branch from the drop-down list. So this is interesting. It's a personal assistant type of thing. It's in some ways, it's very helpful and not antagonistic in terms of like how you ask the question or if it's a duplicate question and all that kind of stuff that you get on Stack Overflow. But at the same time, they're trained on Stack Overflow data, and you can't get this type of response like Gasman provides, that a workaround for a newly known issue, I suppose, and an open bug report, like to resolve the issue and implement the equality method. So I'm really curious to see how the interplay of these two, technologies, these like community and technology evolve, and how Stack Overflow positions itself with these tools. Like, are they banning, for example, ChatGPT here? This was, I think, rescinded or something. Yeah, there's like a lot going on right now with these, basically. The interplay of the two. So you can't use it. It's controversial. 3 days ago. Okay, yeah. Temporarily banned. Okay, so you can't use it to answer questions. So literally, I'm just going to be using Copilot or whatever to answer my questions, and I can't help other people with Copilot, which is kind of unfortunate. I think a blanket ban is not helpful. Like, I could, if somebody asked a question, I could then rephrase that in a way that ChatGPT or Copilot could understand and use that as a good answer for them. They might not have access to GPT stuff or Copilot. It's not everybody can be useful in conjunction. So I hope that we get somewhere in between the blanket bans or just widespread adoption. We get kind of find a middle ground. Hey, what's up? Keep on keeping track of this account. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing today? All right, so I got my failed tests. Good. And same, 3 failures. No need. Let's go. Let's fix them. All right, and here I have this nice little thing I can control click that and jump right to the test. Okay, so this is the example I was talking about, where I have a list of blocks of 3 species, you could call it. And I need to compare them in a consistent manner. Now, this is an interesting one because it has 2 rich text blocks and a pull quote. Here I can do string comparison, but here I need to do source comparison. So I can't just say, hey, compare these lists. Unfortunately. No problem though. So firstly, this implementation is wrong. The expected blocks now should be rich text blocks. Where are you from? Keeping track of this account? I'm from Finland. Finland. Suomi. Hyvä Suomi. Alright, so this is what I need this import. I always forget where this is located. It's pretty obvious. Rich text. PQR. Gotta remember my alphabet. All right, and now the test was, ooh, where'd you go? Here's where I can, like, again, do this sort of approach where I do indexing and then access the property of the particular block. I think that'll be what I do here. So anywhere I see rich text, actually, that's a good one. Rich text. I need to wrap this value in the rich text thingamabob and go to the end of the line, because that is the expected output now. I hope this move is good, because I'm going to have to swing back around to the log content importer and get everything coming across the line there. Let me just, oh yeah, nice. Nice formatting from black, so I can take this no QA off. The line. Oh, whew, just very close there. Okay, Magic Mouse is helping me side scroll. That's kind of cool, but it just gets jiggly and jittery sometimes. It's like the mouse will be sitting there and my window's like going like this. On some random walk. Hey, how you doing there? Go to the store. Wagtail, I'm using the latest, greatest. Our project is in beta, so I just have been running the updates every time we get one. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's not here anymore. It's in our requirements. 5.0.1, yeah, thanks. Wagtail. Maybe I'm just gonna check here because if there's an update, I'd like to do it. Yep, there we are. Wagtail 5.0.1. Very cool. So yeah, you have some pretty intimate knowledge of Wagtail down to the point version, down to the patch version. Releases. Are you working with Wagtail? Because I would be like, yeah, Wagtail 5. I don't. But of course, then there's bugs that were released in the 5. And I've got my rich text. Any other instances of rich text here? Yeah, that's... Oh, here's one. Okay. What's in my... Yeah. Now my tests are still going to be broken because I can't just compare these. So again, I have to go back and change the assertions. But first things first, let's get the... make sure everything is wrapped in rich text and looking good. So yeah, I can run the test, but I know they're going to break, but for different reasons. Yeah, very cool. So the assertion will be essentially 2 blocks, means I'll have to make 4 assertions. Block type, so for each block I need to assert against the type and the value, key value in a way, if it's a named tuple or whatever. But yeah. And the source is essentially, and I want to make sure I'm testing against the expected, oh, you know what? Let me think here. Whoa. This is actually trickier than I think. I want to test the source is the same as the input HTML. This is the trickier part. I want to make sure that Wagtail's not doing unexpected things with my input HTML. That's a bit tricky, isn't it? Not quite. Expected output HTML. It's a bit of a mind boggler. So given this input HTML, I expect that output HTML. And I don't know how reliable these tests are going to be. And I should just reuse that. Whoops. There, it did work. Okay. I probably just... For the sake of my seeing it, I'll make this structure here just so I can see the... think about it a little bit better, have it composed into a list with tuples instead of splayed across assertions. So yeah, self-assert equals update Postgres from frozen on 4.2.4. Ah, really? So there was what version of Postgres are you running? What's the blocking thing? New relating to the search index, or what's the feature in Postgres that's blocking your upgrade? Yeah, it's interesting. Self. All right, so let's make some assertions. Starting with the first block. Okay, well, let me see if Copilot can help me out here. Right. See what Copilot comes up with here. Nothing. Self. Assert equal. Input block 0. Expected block is 0. I think that's good. That should work. Now, make sure the second out block matches. So this is a little bit where we have to differ because of it's an image. I mean, a rich text, not an image. There are image blocks that I'll have to look at by comparing. Also, I just want to make sure that it's the type is and the block type is in the rich text. See that. That should match. Anyway, I can write this one, but you know, sometimes I can get them. Yeah, that works. So yeah, I have the structure. I have the handle. I have special cases here. All right. You know, this comment is also helpful for humans. Okay. Now let's run this specific test. I don't know if I did it correct. That's what running will tell. Test parse. No, you just run this one actually. Content dot management dot test dot are using the 98 domains. Wow, that is a big old wagtail deployment. That's a wagtail multi-site running 98 domains. What are you, at a university? Very cool. Oh, neat. Let's see if this runs. Oh, are you doing some government stuff? I'll be right back. I'm just take off this shirt. I'm burning up over here. BRB. All right, very cool. Yeah, you don't have to enter any of these personal questions. I just realized, you know, that might be a little bit private information where you're working and stuff like that. But yeah, that's big wagtail deployment. 98 domains. Is it multi-site? Yeah, I think it sounds like multi-site. And yeah, you got to move a little bit slow with the affiliate marketing stuff. Okay, cool. Nice. That's a good way to make a little bit of income, isn't it? Oh, my. Okay, so I've only fixed one test, so there's other tests in this suite, right? Okay, so let me just, and probably they're all the failures are in here. Let me just run one at a time, because, wow, this is a big one. Oh, not all of it's Wagtail. Okay, cool. And so that's another reason making it hard to upgrade Postgres is that some other sites would be affected. Have you worked with any other content management systems? Like, we're coming from Drupal to Wagtail with this particular project. The Drupal side of the project is 9 years old. Website's been online for 9 years in Drupal. Before that, I think it was we had it briefly in WordPress and static HTML back before that, like in the 90s or something. I wasn't involved with the organization at that point, but when I came around to the project around 2012, when I started looking into the next generation of the website, and we were like, hey, can we do it with WordPress? Well, it turns out we need probably more CMSE features and custom content models, and working with WordPress, I think still is a bit of code involved, and the ecosystem is just in tatters. The WordPress ecosystem is worse than JavaScript ecosystem almost. So we were like, oh, let's try it out in Drupal. And at that point, I was like also not really comfortable or confident with code. So this has been a long process. Django CMS, very cool. All right, yeah, I looked when we were making the decision to move from Drupal to either Drupal 8 or 9 or Wagtail or something else, what we were going to do with the next generation of the project. I looked at Django CMS. It looks very interesting, but there's just some quirkiness to it that it was a little bit off-putting. I can't remember exactly. It's just a bit awkward the way some things are implemented, and like it was almost the user interface and workflows were designed by engineers for engineers instead of Wagtail. It takes this approach of like designing for humans. Like I know engineers are human. I'm an engineer, so I'm kind of being self-deprecating there, but there's a difference in the user experience that's, you can just feel it. And similar to WordPress, I think Wagtail takes a lot of inspiration from WordPress, and they have like UX people who are like paying attention to that. And what I think the trap of a lot of software falls into when engineers are designing the user interfaces, they're thinking in like literal and technical and, just ways that human interface designers are not thinking. In other words, human interface designers typically think in humans and imperfection and flexibility and communication and meaning and things like that, where engineers are like, we're even debating whether we should have comments in code and how much meaning should we embed in our code, stuff like that. It's like almost working at cross purposes. Yeah, the UX is crazy good with Wagtail. I love it. And the DX is great too. The docs are just getting better and better. They're not reinventing or deviating too much from the Django conventions. I think that was another thing with the Django CMS. It's like trying to invent some little micro world and microcosm there. I can't remember what all it was that steered me away from it. Also, I think when I look at open source projects in particular, I look for like health metrics, like how active is the community? What's the commit graph look like? How many committers do they have? Is it, trending up, increasing, or down? Is it stagnating? Did I say documentation? I probably need to mention that one twice if I am mentioning it twice. What else? Convention with Django and Python and stuff. I really believe in the importance of conventions. Yeah, what else is there? And then there was something with hosting and deployment that seemed a bit off, but this was like 5 years ago when we were making this analysis to transition, and we went with Wagtail, and it's not perfect, but it's really good. Really dang good. Okay, so heavy lagging on my stream. not sure if I can lower the bandwidth while streaming. Stream output. Yeah, my bitrate's probably just a bit too high. It's at 6K. I think I can drop my bitrate down to 5K or 4K. I just don't want to lose the resolution. I want the text to be legible. If I get too low, then the text starts to blur. So it's a bit of a balancing act. I'm not streaming at 60 frames per second. I'd prefer to stream at like 24. Okay, so we've got our test is passing. Let's get to work. And hopefully Copilot can help me here. So one at a time. I think this is gonna pass. Okay, it's back to stable. Yeah, I'm not sure the deal. I'm also, well, multi-stream doesn't matter because I'm sending one stream to the multi-stream provider. I think it's just the 6K thing. 6K streaming. Okay, so yeah, what time is it in your time zone? It's 8:30 here. I'm trying to figure out, you know, is there a good time for me to stream? The best time for me to stream is just when I've got some time to work on this project. So this is a project first stream. But I also want to just like see, you know, gauge when people are online. And, you know, try to build a bit of community and see some familiar faces and get to know people a bit without being too, without asking too many personal details, of course. Respecting privacy. All right. Oh, I need to run the keep DB here so we don't have to build that database every time. Then my test will run much faster. 1 a.m. Eastern time. Wow. You're a night owl, huh? I used to be a night owl. When I first started programming, I was studying like Ruby on Rails. Well, before that I was studying Python at a Chinese restaurant where I was a delivery driver, and I got a book, Python for Dummies, and in between deliveries, the owner let me kind of sit down and read and study. So at that point I wasn't writing any code, I was just getting an idea of like, what is programming, what is Python? I liked Monty Python, and I was later, I actually moved to Lawrence, Kansas, where Django was born, but I wasn't in the mindset, I was in a Ruby on Rails mindset, because at that time, Ruby on Rails was like exploding in popularity. So I used to sit up at night and read about Ruby on Rails and do some Rails projects. Then I kind of went to a little bit of PHP development at a job in Lawrence. And then I sort of went back to the CMS implementers worldview. But yeah, I used to be night owl too. Can relate to that. Are you usually up this late, or is it just an accidental thing today? Having trouble sleeping? Okay, keep DB. Yeah, because I still have nights where I'm like, midnight, 1, 2 a.m. rolls around, I'm like, I can't sleep. So my sleep doctor told me to get out of bed and just do something. She said, if I'm like in bed and for more than 15 minutes not sleeping, then I should get out of bed. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, not everybody's a day person. In recent years, though, life has kind of forced my hand to being a day person, and now I'm sort of accommodated to it, or acclimatized to being a bit of a morning person. But yeah, I kind of resent, my dad used to always be like, oh, I get up at 6 in the morning every day. And he would get in there and, you know, just bragging about it and stuff. And, you know, I would come, he was living in the mountains, and I would visit him, and he would be in there intentionally waking everybody up at 6 a.m. and stuff. And I was like, let people be themselves. I don't believe in everybody should be a morning person, but I also think that we're, you know, adaptable, and we can change our patterns if there's circumstances or the desire. Wow. Okay, so now we've got a failing test. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And the future sort of repeats itself until time catches up. Sounds like a weird version of Groundhog's Day. It's like the wave function's waiting to collapse, and it's just stuck in loop. This is an organization site for a community. It's a community site. Here's the current Drupal edition of it, and it's a community mainly in the western half of North America, I would say, mostly western United States, but also northern Mexico. I think there's even like Guatemala, and I'm not sure the scope of it, but it's kind of big and historic. It's been around since 1929 when they first started publishing the newsletter, that is, and probably before that even. We have this, it started as just a newsletter and a community magazine. And now this part continues. The magazine is still published. The three most recent issues, it's published every 2 months. These are subscriber only, and then everything else back to 1929 is just publicly available, so anybody can check it out. So it started out as Friends Bulletin, and you can read it all online, and we're working with the Internet Archive to make sure that all of these are preserved. All the content is preserved and indexed. I think it even does full text searching and things like report. Let's see, report. Enter. Yeah, there it is. It found report. Page 0, which is also an interesting issue. The page numbers differ. Oh, now I can actually select the text. Very cool. Between 0 and 1. Internet Archive rocks. They've made some kind of questionable decision during the pandemic about opening their lending library to everybody. I think that was a bit of a bold move, and honestly, I don't fully support that move, but I think they're doing a lot of really great work nonetheless. I'm a big fan and advocate of the Internet Archive. Very cool. So we're using it. 1929. And I'm not sure what the organization was or how it was coordinated, this Friends Bulletin, how formal or informal it was prior to this, 1929. But I did know a few of the kind of people who were very active at this around this time, I think, or early friends in California that had the honor to meet. Howard Brinton, though, this guy was prolific. Howard Brinton. 1973. I didn't ever, of course, meet Howard Brinton, but I'm really seeing a lot of his work here in the Friends Bulletin and Western Friend. I mean, like, just a prolific author and community organizer. Okay. Wow, so then they had this, they were part of this Quaker Rift. Co-directors, wow. Pendle Hill is now closing. Interesting. Yeah, so it's just kind of inspiring to get more in-depth knowledge of this historic community. Okay, did the test run? The test ran and passed. So we're getting there. We're getting through the broken tests. Okay, you save. So this one's just the same thing. Okay, so the 0th one should be a rich text block. First block show the source that matches the input. So this is just Copilot writing the code for me. Are you working with Copilot, by the way? I highly recommend it. Look at this. I'm just hitting the tab key. I've set the precedent here. Let's see what it says about the second block, pull quote block. So it's crazy. It knows that it's a pull quote block, and it should have a source that matches the yada yada. This is great. Give it, you know, the prompting is in the code and the comments, but once it gets the pattern, it's very effective. That's why I think these sort of large language models have a place in society and, you know, shouldn't be wholesale banned like Stack Overflow is kind of considering. There's some nuance. There's a lot of nuance to it. And potential dangers and stuff as well to be aware of. All right. Yeah, are you writing much code? I mean, not everybody's like actively coding, so yeah, it might not just be on your radar to use, of course. All right, good. That was that. It wrote that test for me. And the last one looks like none, so don't need any changes there. Coding all day, cool, yeah. Yeah, I'm not of the opinion that everybody should be a coder or does coding. I'm not of that illusion either. And not everybody working with tech needs to know programming. Of course, there's like 30 plus years, very cool. And not everybody that's interested in tech needs to learn programming. And with these large language models, I recognize that a lot more people are capable of more or less programming computers, but using only our natural language, like chatting with them and making requests and stuff like that. So the definition of programming is, I think, evolving as well. Yeah, okay, to me it can be therapeutic. Some days it's like not so therapeutic. It's like a bit, I'm like, oh man, am I even going to solve this problem? Or sometimes the complexity of systems that I'm working with are just like frustrating. I have this big sort of desire to keep things very simple. That's why I'm using Django and Wagtail, and just keep it as simple as possible. And then the tendency in day jobs, it doesn't often promote simplicity. Almost it promotes premature complexity, but I understand there's also some complexity that's going to creep into complex business domains. So not black and white about it, not binary thinking. Yeah, so coding helps you relax and just kind of gives you some focus and therapeutic. That's an interesting word. I haven't really associated with coding, but yeah. But I have a similar experience. I guess it's the creativity of it. What makes it therapeutic for you? For example, I find music making to be a bit therapeutic. It's kind of like letting me just be in the moment and be my creative self. And it helps also calm my nerves usually. There's not a lot of these frustrating battles, these micro battles I end up fighting in coding, for example. But yeah, I understand that that's my experience of music making. How is the how is the coding therapeutic for you? How is it helping? Does it produce like a calmer state of mind, more centeredness, more like sense of self-actualization? Great, my tests pass. Ooh, yes. So that's a way it could be therapeutic when you're successful. But it also, I think, is helpful to teach us that we're not always successful and to endure hardship. And this is a very mild hardship. Programming is a very mild and privileged hardship, I recognize, at some level, on a very basic level. Okay. Go fix broken tests. Yay! I should start putting emojis in my commits. Solving problems is pretty cool. Yeah, do you like enjoy like a creative aspect? Do you like creating new projects or products or ideas, or just helping solve other people's problems or the problems you encounter, and making your services and run? Okay, it's been. Oh yeah, good. Thanks. Uh-oh. Oh no. Afraid of that. Boy, and I think this is a problem with MyPy finding issues with the Django models, the database models and stuff. I've tried to put this Django MyPy plugin back in place. It was working before I refactored the project and got rid of poetry. There's a whole big sweeping change I made, and I, for the life of me, can't get this MyPy Django stubs plugin working. Let me see. So I just have to kind of YOLO it. No, I just tell it to no verify. Once I've verified that the verification is erroneous, then I'll just say no verify. So these are just annotations against my models, and the Django stubs project would fix that. And this pull request isn't even modifying the models. There must be something in the branch that MyPy is picking up on. Why is scanning all my models? I don't know. Probably because I've touched files that import from these. I don't know. Yeah, engineered heart. That's pretty cool. It's good. It's an interesting mindset too. So I'll just no verify this. Well, if you'd like to help solve a problem, I've got one. I've actually got an issue for it. No obligation, of course. It's just an invitation. This Django stubs, I've tried it twice. I refactored the project. Everything is working. CI is working. The automated test runners are working. I just can't get this MyPy plugin back in the loop. If you'd like to try a challenging problem, this is one that should be straightforward. It's got documentation. You just pip install it. Add it to the PyProject TOML, which is, it's already there. It's waiting basically. Let me double check this. So my PyProject TOML, we're defining our dependencies here, and so just adding Django stubs back here. I thought I had even commented it out. And then here's the line of code, just uncommenting this and uncommenting this. But it doesn't work. I get some errors, and I can't remember them off the top of my head. It was working before. There's some nuance to it. I'm using PyProject TOML and just pip to manage my dependencies now with pip tools. Previously I was working with poetry, so there's a bit of difference. And the source code was in a subdirectory, and I flattened the project, switched back to pip for simplicity in a way, and it's a trade-off. Poetry did make things simple in some ways, but actually introduced some breaking complexities in others that I just wasn't ready to continue with in this project. installed apps. Do you have to put Django stubs in the installed apps? That's a good point. So you install it, you add it to your plugins, and you change the settings. But in PyProject Toml, it looks like that. Let me try it real quick on stream. I mean, yeah, there could be just I'm doing something silly, but so it looks like this, and I think it's a dev dependency, right? Or is it a? Let me just try putting in my main dependencies just to do it. Oops, I need to put that in a string. Then I can that. Oh, or if you want to try it, yo, let me, because I don't want to risk, I don't want to jeopardize this pull request. Let me get this one over the line. It's, see it running in CI. It is quite easy to get distracted in meaningful ways. Did I push my changes up? Oh yeah, there they are. Fix broken disks. Ah, darn it. Code cover. Oh, okay. My coverage decreased. These I'm going to fix in a separate pull request. Okay, the GitHub issue. Cool. Yeah, thanks for checking it out. I think this PR is ready. I've just reduced the, there's some uncovered code, but I'm gonna have a whole session dedicated to adding test coverage to my importer scripts and refactoring them so they're testable. This is a sort of new thing in the project where I'm really emphasizing test coverage. So other than that, the existing tests run. That's what I'm after. They pass, I mean. Yeah, if I run them on everything, and this should pass because my tests are kind of narrowly scoped. There's no installed apps. Oh, yeah? Okay. Installed apps in the project settings, right? Oh, you know what? I think I know what you mean. I'm pointing to the wrong settings, but I thought they were inheriting. So let me see here. Yeah, if that's the case, this is great. If it's a simple solution, I will do it in another pull request, of course. Okay, so core settings. Where was I pointing? Base Pi? Base? Let me just check base and then I'll check the dev and production. Get my PyProject Toml up. Okay, so I'm pointing it to, I got the MyPyDjango plugin main and core settings base. My base Pi installed apps is here. I don't really need these other. Okay, cool. Hey, thanks for stopping in and keeping track of this account. It's nice to see a new name, and hopefully I'll see you around. I'm getting ready to wrap up as well. Yeah, over the next month or so, I'll be trying to stream around this time of day. And let's see, you're in Eastern time. I'm in Eastern Europe time. I can post my schedule, but it's around 6 p.m. Eastern Europe time, which is 6 a.m. Western time. So probably around 8 or 9 a.m. your time, Eastern. Yeah, so whichever of those works out for you. 1 a.m. and 9 a.m. your time. will probably be when I'm online. I don't know if there's a way I can set up notifications or something like that, or publish. I can publish a calendar, I suppose. All right, thanks for stopping by. It's been nice chatting, and good luck on your managing your Wagtail and hopefully upgrading your Postgres so that you can run the latest Wagtail 5. Have a good night. Sleep well. Okay, well, I think I'm going to wrap up this stream as well. This is a good stopping point. The pull request is working. Coverage is poor because I just haven't written the tests. Improved the existing tests so that they ran successfully. Continuing with our constant importers and test coverage in the next episode. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're doing well and have a great day or good sleep. See you around.